Retro road test, Ford P100 vs Vauxhall Brava. It's caught here. If you like my content and feel able to, please do like it or follow my blogs, Spotify and YouTube channels or Facebook channel. It would mean and help an awful lot. Thank you. https://corg9000.wordpress.com/ Retro road test, Ford P100 vs Vauxhall Brava. The Working Man's Chariots. Britain, 1992. 2 pickups. 1 blue oval. 1 griffin. Both aimed at builders, farmers, electricians, plumbers and anyone whose idea of a luxury accessory is a clean pair of overalls. Which deserves your hard-earned cash. There was a time when a pickup truck in Britain was something exotic. Something seen in American television programs, driven by men called Earl, towing boats larger than most Surrey semi-detached houses. Not anymore. The recession may be biting harder than a Staffordshire Bull Terrier with tax arrears, but Britain still needs people to carry things. Bricks need moving. Sheep need transporting. Builders need somewhere to throw muddy tools. Electricians need somewhere to lose receipts. Enter the pickup truck. For 1992, the British market offers 2 very different interpretations of the working vehicle. On one side we have the familiar Ford P100, the commercial derivative of the Sierra. On the other sits the Vauxhall Brava, a Japanese-built workhorse imported from Isuzu and wearing a Vauxhall badge. One is as British as rain on a bank holiday. The other is as Japanese as a Sony Walkman. Yet both are chasing the same customers. Time to find out which deserves a place on your driveway, farmyard or building site. The contenders. Ford P100 2.0. The P100 has become something of an institution. Introduced originally as a Cortina-based pickup before migrating to Sierra underpinnings, it has carved out a unique niche in the British market. It isn't really a truck. It isn't really a car. It occupies a strange middle ground where commercial practicality meets family car familiarity. Our test vehicle uses Ford's 2.0-litre Pinto petrol engine producing around 98 bhp. Specifications. Engine, 1993 cc 4-cylinder petrol. Power, 98 bhp. Torque, 119 pound-feet. Gearbox, 5-speed manual. Drive, rear-wheel drive. Payload, approximately 1,000 kilograms. Top speed, around 95 miles per hour. 0-60 miles per hour, around 14 seconds. Vauxhall Brava 2.5 diesel. The Brava takes a different approach. This is a proper pickup. Built by Isuzu in Japan, it sits on a ladder chassis and looks like it could survive a small war. Power comes from a naturally aspirated 2.5-litre diesel producing approximately 76 bhp. That figure may not sound impressive. It isn't. But torque and durability matter more than outright speed in this class. Specifications. Engine, 2,499 cc 4-cylinder diesel. Power, 76 bhp. Torque, 127 pound-feet. Gearbox, 5-speed manual. Drive, rear-wheel drive. Payload, around 1,000 kilograms. Top speed, approximately 80 miles per hour. 0-60 miles per hour, best measured using a calendar. Styling. Nobody buys a pickup because it looks sexy. If they do, they need professional help. Nevertheless, appearances matter. Ford P100. The P100 is essentially a Sierra from the front. That means aerodynamic styling, smooth lines and a shape that still looks reasonably modern. Even after a decade, the Sierra nose remains distinctive. Behind the cab, however, matters become considerably more agricultural. The cargo bed appears to have been attached by a committee who worked in separate buildings and never spoke to one another. Yet somehow it works. It looks purposeful. It looks British. Most importantly, it doesn't look ridiculous. Vauxhall Brava. The Brava takes no prisoners. Flat panels. Square arches. Large bumpers. A front end that could double as industrial machinery. This is not a vehicle concerned with fashion. The styling department clearly asked themselves one question. Will it survive being reversed into a gatepost? The answer appears to be yes. Repeatedly. It looks tougher than the Ford. Whether it looks better depends entirely on whether your idea of beauty includes agricultural equipment. Cab and interior. Ford P100. Climb into the Ford and you immediately recognize the Sierra origins. This is excellent news. The dashboard is familiar. The switchgear is sensible. The driving position is comfortable. You sit in what feels like a car rather than a commercial vehicle. Visibility is generally excellent. The seats provide decent support. The instruments are clear. Anyone who has driven a Sierra will feel at home within seconds. Of course, there are drawbacks. The plastics aren't exactly Rolls-Royce quality. After a few years many examples develop squeaks and rattles worthy of a percussion section. Still, compared with many commercial vehicles, it feels positively luxurious. Vauxhall Brava. The Brava's interior is a masterclass in functionality. And absolutely nothing else. The dashboard appears to have been designed using a ruler and an unhealthy obsession with right angles. Everything feels immensely durable. The controls operate with the sort of mechanical certainty normally associated with industrial machinery. You suspect the dashboard would survive a nuclear exchange. Unfortunately, comfort takes second place. The seats are flatter. The driving position is less natural. The cabin feels narrower. After a few hours behind the wheel, the Ford definitely emerges as the more civilized companion. Load carrying. This is where things get serious. Nobody buys either vehicle to impress neighbors. They buy them to carry stuff. Heavy stuff. Dirty stuff. Things normal cars refuse to tolerate. Ford P100. The P100's load bed is enormous. Builders adore it. Farmers love it. Garden centers probably have annual Christmas parties dedicated to it. The payload approaches 1 ton. The bed sits reasonably low, making loading relatively straightforward. Because the vehicle uses passenger car underpinnings, loading and unloading is easier than with many traditional pickups. The downside becomes apparent when carrying maximum loads. The rear suspension can feel somewhat overwhelmed. The vehicle was designed with practicality in mind, but you remain conscious that beneath everything lurks Sierra DNA. Vauxhall Brava. The Brava feels purpose-built. Because it is. Load it with bags of cement, timber or livestock and it merely shrugs. The chassis feels immensely strong. The rear springs appear capable of supporting a small office block. Fully laden, it remains composed. The cargo bed is practical and durable. If your business regularly involves genuinely hard work, the Brava begins making a compelling argument. Performance. The category where nobody expects excitement. Quite rightly. Ford P100. The 2.0 Pinto is well known to British motorists. It is not sophisticated. It is not especially refined. But it gets on with the job. Performance is respectable. Unladen, the P100 feels surprisingly brisk. Acceleration is perfectly adequate. Motorway cruising at 70 miles per hour presents no difficulty. The 5-speed gearbox helps keep engine noise under control. Compared with many commercial vehicles, the Ford feels positively eager. Vauxhall Brava. The diesel Brava exists in a different universe. A slower universe. A universe where acceleration happens eventually. You plant your foot. You wait. The engine considers the request. Paperwork is completed. Committees are consulted. Eventually the vehicle gains speed. Yet missing the point would be easy. The diesel isn't about speed. It's about economy and durability. The engine pulls steadily. It never feels stressed. It simply gets on with the job. If overtaking is your favorite pastime, buy something else. Anything else. Ride and handling. This category reveals perhaps the biggest philosophical difference between our competitors. Ford P100. The Ford drives remarkably well. For a pickup. The steering feels relatively precise. The suspension remains compliant. The vehicle corners with a degree of confidence. Unladen ride quality can be bouncy, but that is hardly unusual in this class. Most impressive is the way it feels like a large Sierra. That may sound obvious. Yet it gives the Ford a significant advantage. Driving one every day is genuinely pleasant. Vauxhall Brava. The Brava drives like a truck. Because it is one. The steering is slower. The ride is firmer. Cornering enthusiasm quickly reminds you of Newtonian physics. The suspension prefers carrying weight. Without a loader board, it can bounce across poor surfaces like an enthusiastic kangaroo. Yet there is reassurance in its solidity. Everything feels robust. Everything feels durable. You sense it would happily spend 20 years crossing muddy fields without complaint. And many probably will. Refinement. Neither contender belongs in the luxury car market. Still, differences exist. Ford P100. The petrol Ford wins comfortably. Engine noise remains acceptable. Wind noise is reasonable. Long-distance journeys are perfectly manageable. You could genuinely use it as everyday transport. Many owners do exactly that. Vauxhall Brava. The diesel soundtrack resembles distant agricultural activity. At idle it clatters. Under load it clatters louder. Cold mornings introduce entirely new categories of clatter. Conversation requires additional volume. The radio requires optimism. On long journeys, earplugs become a tempting accessory. Still, farmers and builders have endured far worse. Reliability. A crucial consideration. Downtime costs money. Ford P100. The Ford's mechanical components are familiar and widely understood. Parts availability is excellent. Most village garages can repair one. The Pinto engine has achieved near-legendary status for toughness. However, rust remains public enemy number one. Cab corners. Wheel arches. Load bed. Chassis sections. British weather attacks them all with enthusiasm. Vauxhall Brava. The Japanese-built Brava enjoys a formidable reputation. The diesel engine feels almost indestructible. Mechanical reliability is generally outstanding. Rust resistance is superior to many contemporary British vehicles. Owners frequently report enormous mileages with minimal drama. The Brava's greatest strength may be its ability to keep working when lesser vehicles surrender. Running costs. Ford P100. The petrol engine is reasonably economical. Expect mid to high 20s in everyday use. Servicing costs remain modest. Insurance is sensible. Parts are plentiful. Overall ownership costs are predictable. Vauxhall Brava. The diesel's economy is significantly better. 35 miles per gallon or more is achievable. For high mileage users this matters enormously. Servicing is straightforward. Mechanical longevity further reduces costs. The Brava begins making increasing financial sense the more miles you cover. Oddly enough, image matters. Even with commercial vehicles. The Ford carries a certain familiarity. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone understands it. Turn up at a building site in a P100 and nobody thinks twice. The Brava projects a different image. More serious. More rugged. More professional. Like somebody who owns several pairs of work boots and knows how to repair machinery using only a hammer and determination. Verdict. Choosing between these vehicles ultimately depends upon how you define the word work. The Ford P100 is the better all-rounder. It drives better. It rides better. It offers greater comfort. It feels more civilized. For owners who split time between carrying loads and everyday motoring, the Ford makes enormous sense. You can drive it to work, use it for work and drive it home again without feeling you've spent the day operating industrial equipment. The Vauxhall Brava is different. It is tougher. Stronger. More durable. It feels engineered for a lifetime of abuse. If your livelihood depends upon carrying heavy loads through miserable conditions, the Brava's rugged honesty becomes deeply appealing. The Ford is the vehicle you choose with your head and a little bit of your heart. The Brava is the vehicle you choose when you've broken 3 previous pickups and have decided enough is enough. For most British buyers in 1992, the Ford P100 edges the victory. Its blend of practicality, comfort and car-like manners remains enormously attractive. But the Brava deserves immense respect. It may not be quick. It may not be refined. It may not even be particularly attractive. Yet like a faithful sheepdog, it simply gets on with the job day after day without complaint. And in the commercial vehicle world, that counts for an awful lot. Final results. First place, Ford P100 2.0. Better road manners. More comfortable. Easier to live with daily. Strong parts support. Second place, Vauxhall Brava 2.5 diesel. Tougher construction. Better economy. Superior durability. Outstanding workhorse credentials. If your pickup spends weekdays hauling bricks and weekends taking the family to B&Q, buy the Ford. If your pickup spends every day carrying half a farm while being driven across terrain resembling the Somme, buy the Vauxhall. Either way, you'll own one of the last genuinely honest vehicles on the road. No touch screens. No driving modes. No electronic nannies. Just steel, diesel, petrol and hard work. Frankly, there is something rather admirable about that. It's caught here. If you like my content and feel able to, please do like it or follow my blogs. Spotify and YouTube channels or Facebook channel, it would mean and help an awful lot. Thank you. https://korg9000.wordpress.com/